Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Thank you for being a member of Patreon. Very controversial what we're going to talk about here tonight. Of course, you've heard of FEMA camps or FEMA internment camps. And I've even have a letter in my hand from a lady that works for FEMA and her concerns about the deep state. But before I go into that, let's talk a little bit about what has been going on even in places like North Korea. Now, we know death camps of Nazi Germany went on for over 12 years, and the horrific stories, and maybe you've watched the movie Schindler's List. But in North Korea, there's reports that 20,000, I repeat, 20,000 North Koreans were held in huge prison camp have simply disappeared. Thousands of prisoners are missing from the closure of a brutal prison camp called Camp 22. Now, more than 20,000 of these inmates of the North Korea's notorious Camp 22 are feared to have perished during the regime's recent closure of brutal facilities. The Committee for Human Rights in North Korea claimed that the prisoners, most of whom have never committed a crime, may have been allowed to die of disease or even starvation in the run-up to the camp's closure last year. The organization's latest report is that North Korea's hidden gulag, interpreting reports of changes in the prison camps, say the prison population shrank dramatically in the months leading up to December of 2013 when this camp was closed. Reports are, according to a report on the Telegraph website, defectors of the regime revealed 8,000 of the 30,000 prisoners were transferred to other camps, leaving 22,000 people unaccounted for. The prisoners who survived are believed to have moved to Camp 25 or maybe to Camp 16. But the closure came as North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un consolidated his grip on power following the death of his father in 2011, Kim Jong-il. So what happened to these 20,000 people? Did they just die in the concentration camp? Did they die in notorious death camp of Camp 22? Well, another report that came out recently, now this was in 2017, so 4 years later, the prison camps of Nazi Germany existed for 12 years before their remaining survivors were freed after World War II. In the years that followed, many learned of the horrifying conditions and torture and millions murdered by Hitler's regime, and people swore never to let it happen again. But North Korea has established its system of prison camps where an untold number of people have died amid unspeakable atrocities. Compared to what the Nazis did, according to a preliminary report from the United Nations, I believe you will be very disturbed and distressed by it, and that you will have a reaction similar to those of the U.S. General Dwight D. Eisenhower and others who came upon the camps in post-war Europe. Head investigator Michael Kirby told Reuters back in 2013. But recently, the UN's human rights body agreed to strengthen its ongoing investigation of abuses inside the Hermit Kingdom. That investigation will be used in a future accountability process if the country's leaders are ever held accountable. Now, this report I'm talking about took place then in March of 2017. I believe you will be very disturbed. Now, about 200,000 people are certainly imprisoned in North Korea's gulags, while 400,000 people have died in them, according to reports from the Amnesty International and the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea. North Korea has repeatedly denied such reports, and it boycotted the United Nations debate on it. But Kim Jong-un cannot hide from satellite imagery and the increasing number of escapees who have testified about the regime's abuse. We've gathered some details about the camps along with satellite images and a set of unconfirmed illustrations supposedly done by a defector that hint at the terror inside. You see, North Korea is a country of about 25 million people, and 200,000 of them have disappeared in brutal concentration camps found throughout the country. Are you serious? That's insanity. It's absolutely insanity. Former prisoners say conditions are so bad that 20% of the 25% of the prison population die every year. They just can't survive it. It's just beyond comprehension. And let me just give you some more information. Now, we know that there's been talk of U.S. FEMA camps, and we know there's over 800 of these so-called FEMA facilities that are basically prison camps that are not in use. Over 800 of them. Matter of fact, I have a picture, and I put that in the thumbnail for you to see. But the U.S. FEMA concentration camps in a list are there in case martial law should ever have to be used. Over 800 of these camps were discovered in the United States. They are heavily guarded by the National Guard full-time, but are empty all the time. These camps are being run by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Should martial law ever take effect in the United States, with just a simple order from the President, Donald J. Trump, martial law can be implemented and will remain in there as long as the President is in power. Now, recently we received a letter. This was the second of 3 letters that we've received from an individual who works in FEMA. I've read this letter before on the air, but I want to read it again in context with what we're discussing here. Pastor Paul and Heidi, first let me thank both of you for your continued prayers. I'm so blessed to have an online family that I can talk to. It's extremely lonely in this environment. Let me apologize for not following up sooner, but things are really starting to speed up. They've placed equipment and storage containers in every region now. The Walmart closings help shadow their activity, and they are pulling resources from every facet within the organization. The beast system is now in place for an EMP, or nuclear attack. During training, we asked why we're being pulled from our locations outside of the surge support. They responded that everyone will be called up to go door to door to detain or process individuals. We asked, after an attack, how would we be notified to report in? And why would they want to get us during a crisis? They laughed and said, you will be notified well in advance of an anticipated lights out situation. Do you really think we're not aware of what's going to happen before it does? We were told that the military has stockpiles of old vehicles or new retrofitted vehicles that can withstand an EMP or nuclear attack. We were told that businesses have been contracted out to retrieve additional supplies with or without the cooperation of its original owners. The Salvation Army will be called in to help distribute food at special locations. We were told that everyone will either go to a destination or they will be taken to a special location. Someone asked, what about the rumors of the homeless being taken during Hurricane Houston? The leaders looked at each other and said, provide us with a proof of a body. Dark skies was the final phase of training and preparation. The beast is looking forward to war and mass amount of people it will eliminate. The system's extremely dark and dangerous. Please continue to pray for us during these very unsettling times. Now, this individual, which we will not tell you who it is, does work for FEMA and has sent us 3 letters. That is the second of 3 that we've received this year. I can't even read to you the first and third ones, but I can tell you this. It's not a joke. Tent cities are being used. The deep state runs very deep. The black budget operations are beyond even the knowledge of those in the highest offices of our nation. It's quite obvious that the deep state is entrenched in every one of the major agencies. Let's face it, the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, just to name a few. The deep state is so deep, who do you trust? We're living in a time that we never thought we'd be. NSA hears everything we say. And now even the big tech companies are under the control of Big Brother. I guess I have to ask a question. What would you do if your faith was put to the test? What would you do if you were taken from your home and incarcerated in a re-education facility or an internment camp or something worse? Would you sign away your rights to Christ? Would you accept the blessing of the beast? We're in a time that people will say to me, well, Pastor Begley, we don't have to worry about that. Look, I'm not talking about the wrath of God. We're not going to be here for the wrath of God. We're not talking about the wrath of God. We're talking about the evil of men. And if you check with lately, if you just check with the Christians of Iraq and Syria, they'll tell you that these evil men will behead, rape, execute, and murder Christians right on the spot. If you ask the survivors of the Holocaust, they'll tell you just what the evils of communistic, super socialistic Nazism and all of the other communistic regimes, totalitarianism. If you talk to survivors of the 70s under Idi Amin with his machetes hacking Christians to death. We can go on and on and on if you want to. So trust me, thank God that we live in this nation. But you better be praying, folks. Have you recently seen what's going on? Do you see how dangerous it is? When I said that we are in the darkest hour of this nation in 150 years, that's exactly what I meant. Now, the Bible does tell us to pray that we be worthy to escape the hour of temptation that's coming upon the earth. And Jesus did say that God would shorten the days for the elect's sake, lest there be no flesh saved. And America is one blessed nation because of our relationship with Israel. So it's time to understand the time we're in. You need to get right with God. You need to be rapture ready. You need to have your name written in the Lamb's Book of Life. You need to be born again. And you need to have the spiritual fortitude to withstand anything and everything that the devil would throw at you. We are living in the last days. Evil is lurking everywhere. Thank you for being a member of Patreon.